Black Mirror Season 7, Episode 2, BêTE Noire. We're going to talk about this episode right here, right now. Thank you for coming through. We've spoken about common people in yesterday's video, and we're going to be speaking about this whole season, this whole week. Spoiler warning ahead. Let's get into the story. This episode was quite literally gaslighting 101. I really enjoyed this episode as well. It was very, very different to common people. Very different. I can't express that enough. You went from feeling such harrowness, distraughtness, just pain, to just pure anger and just frustration this episode caused me to feel. The story was really good. We follow Maria, who works at a food company, creating new designs for food, different iterations of ways to have things, and a testing group comes in, including Verity, an old classmate of hers, who was a bit of an odd ball at school, it's fair to say. She tries the food, encourages everyone to try it again, and everyone ends up enjoying it. She goes on to end up getting a job as an assistant to the role that Maria has at the company. And long story short, she just makes life living hell for Maria, and in 1 week alone she completely twists her life upside down. I really enjoyed just the dramatic Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, each day as it went on, as it felt like each day her life was falling apart more and more. I really enjoyed this episode. As I said, it kept me frustrated. I felt like Maria in this episode. I felt the anger because in theory it was only her and us, the audience, that were aware of the truth in 90% of the scenarios. We knew it was called Barney's and not Bernie's, the chicken shop in South London. I did kind of like the little mention of Morley's. If you don't know, I'm from South London as well. Let's go Black Mirror representing South London. But yeah, the Bernie's and the Barney situation, the email getting changed as well. We're questioning, how is this possible? But as Maria is questioning it as well, she's screaming and livid and frustrated, and so are we. We don't know how. And the extreme version of this was the almond milk situation on CCTV. How is that even possible to change that? And then of course the forgetting nut allergy exists with nutology.
Got a nut allergy. No such thing as a nut allergy.
What's nut allergy?
A nut allergy.
I really liked that. It was quite funny, but it was made me go extreme, like how on earth have they forgot that? And then we realized it's something to do with the pendant that Verity is wearing, and that was basically the main story of this episode, that Maria follows Verity home and finds out that Verity has this wild tech in her house, lives in a mansion, has loads of weird pictures of her like as an astronaut or as an empress and things like that. It's really odd. We find out, of course, the story tells us that she has the ability to connect to any parallel universe. Okay, there's every scenario possible, even a scenario where everyone has forgot what nut allergy is apart from you. It was quite an extreme reasoning and explanation to how it was even possible to do this. But one thing I'll make clear is I don't think Black Mirror has ever needed to have justifiable, quantifiable technology or explanations to how things are happening. We've seen playtest where there's a technology inserted in the back of the brain. Now, I don't know the logistics of that technology, whether that's even viable or plausible in the future. However, I still take that episode for what it was. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You don't necessarily have to have a justifiable way of things being done. I didn't need to know how she connected the parallel universe. I didn't need to know any of that. I didn't necessarily love that was the twist at first, but then I realized that I'm a massive Marvel fan. I enjoy the multiversal sort of saga that we've been within recently, seeing different parallel universe, different iterations of people, and that was kind of explored in this episode. So story-wise, I think it was good. I think it was very good, actually. I think the actual main crux of it, of just her life falling apart for unknown reasons, and how was we being gaslit? We were being gaslit, like us as the audience. I started to question. I wanted to go back in the episode. I didn't do it, but I wanted to rewind and just see for sure if the hat said Barney's instead of Bernie's. Was Maria the problem? Like Verity and her mission to tear her life apart, low-key was working at the beginning because I was questioning her. But then once you saw the email and things like that, and nut allergy, I wasn't going to turn on Maria there. The concept, okay? The concept I've kind of spoken about already there, but it was a great concept. A really, really great concept. As I said, I'm a Marvel fan, and they've been doing the multiverse saga for the last couple of years. It's an interesting thing to delve into. Someone that could have a different version of themselves in this parallel universe, this different entity. And this one was more extreme because it was every parallel universe possible. Like even just saying everyone in this room has forgot what nut allergy is apart from you, and it just happens. It was really cool and really interesting to explore. And of course, Maria's ex-friend at school and Verity's previous victim who took her own life, we saw Maria going down that path as well, and it was quite damning because we all know Black Mirror. It looked like that was where we were going to go with it. because that's what Black Mirror does. Like, even though you know it's going to end up sad, it ends up even worse than you thought. It was interesting though that they didn't necessarily go that route and it ended quite positively for Maria, but did it actually? I will go into that in a second, but the concept as a whole being explored in that way, it's parallel universes, this pendant, it was really cool. It was a really cool idea and concept, and it was a great episode to explore. So now I want to talk about the characters, mainly Verity as a character. Okay, she was quite odd, but of course she had to be an odd character, an oddball, because that's what she was at school. And what I wanted to really talk about is how her character had the ability, had the world at her fingertips, the universes at her fingertips. She could do anything she wanted, and as we hear at the end of the episode, she did. She was the first person to walk on the moon or do this, that, and the other. She accomplished everything that you could possibly dream of. But one thing that could never go away, one thing that was always with her throughout all of these journeys, was her childhood trauma, her school bullies, and the rumors that they spread about her at school. The pain that she felt in those formative years couldn't be scrubbed, couldn't be ignored, and were always there, itching away. So much so that she went, after doing everything you could possibly dream of in life, she still held that grudge. She still held that pain. And she took it out on them later down the line by really, really vindictive ways. Like, she could have easily just unalived them. Like, she could have easily just done that, you know? But she chose to do it in a very twisted, long-winded way where all of their loved ones would suddenly start questioning their sanity and where they were at. It was a really horrible way for her to get some payback on her. But it was really interesting to hear that and to see that, like, that idea of, you know, that childhood pain or the childhood bullying that you might experience at school and things like that do actually stay with you, that they don't leave you. And I thought that was quite an interesting, like, human sort of thing to explore. Like, although what she was doing was horrible and vindictive and messed up, her reasoning and her justification for it was something quite human. I did really enjoy Maria as a character as well. I can't explain to you how much I felt what she was feeling. I was genuinely like, what the hell's going on? Like, when Verity calls the armed police at the end and things like that, I thought, this is actually horrible. Like, her life was on the up. Like, the owner of the company was going to tell her to come to their like conference or whatever in person, like, come with us. Her life was on the up, and it all just came crashing down horrifically. Of course, the twist this episode was a big reveal, contrasting to the last episode where it was more of a long-winded twist of pain and distraught. But this episode was a big twist at the end. It was like, how could she plausibly do these things? And then we find out she has access to these parallel universes through the pendant. I thought the twist was, as I said, it doesn't need to be quantifiable or justifiable. It doesn't have to be logistically possible for me to understand it and say, yeah, that's good. It's a more extreme version for Black Mirror. I don't think, off the top of my head, there's many episodes that deal with something so drastic. But what I did like was how this drastic tool was used in such a vindictive human way. I can imagine a lot of people would hold grudges in those, as I've mentioned already, hold grudges from childhood pain and trauma and, you know, want to get revenge on people, and they might use certain things in such a way. I did think the idea, like, I was trying to get into Charlie Brooker's mind, the writer of Black Mirror. It's really difficult to do that because his mind is just immense, all these ideas. And I thought, you know, gaslighting, being gaslit is a more recent thing, and I think he led this episode with that concept, with that idea. What if I take gaslighting and being gaslit and take it to the max, times 1,000, times 1 million, because that's what it is, really. And then they delve into it into such a vast degree, you know, just completely being gaslit. So like that twist of, you know, something simple as being gaslit, us as the audience being gaslit as well, but that twist being in the way they did it, I don't think it was as hard hitting. I think the real twist was the ending. Okay, it was how she used the pendant once she got it. And I thought it was very interesting because having the access of the world and universes at your fingertips is one thing, which is really cool. But she takes the first step to say that you think I'm innocent, takes the next step saying that you worship me, and then taking the third step, which was, now I'm Empress Supreme and you all bow down to me. And she goes down potentially the same path that Verity would. And I think this was like a little subtle, I don't know if people would think the same, let me know in the comments down below, but I think it was a little subtle, like, idea of, okay, we've explored humans and, like, you know, what we would do in that scenario with what Verity done, but I think we all look at Verity as a bad person, and we look at Maria as a good person. But she went down the exact same first option that Verity would, and it led me to believe that, you know, she could go down a very similar path to Verity. You know, being an empress, getting bored of that, being the first person on the moon, getting bored of that, being the star of Vogue and, you know, front page of Vogue and all these things. And then eventually at the end of it, maybe getting a little bit sadistic, maybe getting a little bit dark. And, you know, she might have want to pay revenge to certain people as well. And she might use it in that vindictive way. because us as humans, we shouldn't have that power. We shouldn't have that possibility to have access to all these things. I would have liked in this twist, I would have liked it to be a little bit longer. I thought once she got the power of the pendant, I would like to see her try and put her life back together at first, rather than go to the extreme of, you know, jumping to being the Empress. I would have liked her to maybe go back into work and, you know, just see her back to normal. And then maybe the idea of her having this power, this pendant, like, why am I working? Like, why am I continuing this job that I obviously have a lot of love for and desire to progress in? It'd be really interesting to see her just like kind of scrap that now that she has the ability to do anything in life. I thought that would have been quite cool to explore, but she obviously goes straight to the extreme. And I think there's a reason they've done that. Okay, they could have easily continued the exploration of this parallel world and what it could potentially jump into, but they opted to go straight for the extreme. And I don't think that's because they wanted to end the episode quickly. No, I think it was to show that I think Verity and Maria were probably very similar. Us as all humans were very similar. Like, we could see we were Maria in that episode. You know, we were getting gaslit, we were feeling the pain and the anguish and all this stuff that she was going through. We weren't like Verity, but we were like Maria. But Maria chose to do exactly what Verity done as soon as she got the power of that pendant. So we can assume she's going to go down that dark future of choosing to do stuff like that as well. Let me know if you agree with that in the comments down below. You might not, but overall I really enjoyed this episode. It was a 7 out of 10 for me overall. Not as good as Common People, but still a great concept and a good episode. I was going to say fun, but it wasn't fun. It was really painful and anger inducing. Yeah, very frustrating. But it was still a great Black Mirror episode. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What did you rate it out of 10? Make sure you drop a sub if you haven't done so already. I've been Floppyleggs, and I'll see ya when I see ya.